Hello, this is Gair and Karunatillake Lesson 3, Section 1 of the readings, reading number 3 on page 30. As usual, I will read the entire text out and then we'll go through it in detail. Yasmachako bhikkhave sakka akusalam pajahitun tasmamevam vadami akusalam bhikkhave pajahathati. Akusalam cha hidam bhikkhave pahinam ahitaya dukkaya samvataya naham ayam vadayam akusalam bhikkhave pajahathati. Yasmachakho bhikkhave akusalam pahinam hitaya sukhaya samvatati tasmaham evam vadami akusalam bhikkhave pajahathati. Kusalam bhikkhave bhavetha, sakka bhikkhave kusalam bhavetum. Yasmachakho bhikkhave sakka kusalam bhavetum, tasmaham evam vadami, kusalam bhikkhave bhavethati. Kusalam chahidam bhikkhave bhavitam ahitaya dukkaya samvataya, naham evam vadayam. Kusalam bhikkhave bhavethati. Yasmachakho bhikkhave kusalam bhavitam hitaya sukhaya samvattati tasmaham evam vadami kusalam bhikkhave bhavethati. So, yasma, ablative of yam, from which, literally from which, and therefore it means because. Yasmachako, slightly emphatic, but because, so he's saying, he's negating or making a contrast with whatever it was went before, but because bhikkhave or monks, sakka pajahitum, it is possible to abandon or set aside akusalam, the unwholesome, tasmaham evam vadami, therefore I say, pajahata akuslam bhikkhave, or akuslam bhikkhave pajahata. Note the correlation. Because it is possible to do it, I tell you to do it. In Pali, you say, because it's possible to do it, therefore I tell you to do it. So yasma, because, tasma, the correlative tasma, therefore, literally from which, from that. So yasmachko bhikkhave, it is possible, sakka pajahitum akusalam, tasmaham, tasma aham, therefore I, evam vadami, thus say. Now this word pajahata, oops, sorry, I keep doing that. You'll get that. The root ha means to leave or to abandon. Now, there are certain verbs in Sanskrit that reduplicate in the present tense. It's present imperfect, operative, and imperative. So you would normally expect to see something like hati, but that word doesn't exist. It's actually, it reduplicates the first syllable with a ja. So it's jahati. And the a shortens, by the way. So jahati, he abandons. Jahame, I abandon. Here it's got a pra in Sanskrit, pa in Pali. It has effectively the same meaning, just to give up, to leave, to abandon. In Sanskrit, you would make the infinitive regularly with hatum, but Pali doesn't follow the Sanskrit there. Pali makes an infinitive from the reduplicated present root. That is why you see pajahitum. a pure Sanskrit speaker would very much frown on the way that's done, but there it is. It's how it was done in Pali. Pajahitum, so to abandon. Sakka, it is possible. It's that's an impersonal verb. This means it is possible generally. Sakka pajahitum, it is possible to abandon. Pajahata is the imperative plural, so telling them to abandon it in the plural. The singulars just would be pajaha. So what he's saying is that, yeah, I'm advising you to abandon what is unwholesome. And he's saying, I wouldn't be telling you to do that unless it was possible. So what he's saying here, he's stressing that what he's advising you or telling you to do is something that is in fact possible to be done. Now, akusalancha hi idam is something like, now this unwholesomeness, and akusalancha, unwholesomeness, idam, this, hi idam, now look, this unwholesomeness, akusalancha hi idam, bhikkave monks, pahinam, abandoned, when abandoned. Now, this ha, normally it would make its past participle, and I'm going to write a form that doesn't exist. By the way, whenever I write an asterisk, it's a form that doesn't, an incorrect form that doesn't exist. It's just to warn you. Sorry, hata, it would be hata if it were regular. So let me get this right. But this form asterisk does not exist. Instead, we have, in fact, both in Sanskrit and in Pali, hina. And hina basically has the sense of the same prahina, pahina. Hina on its own has the sense of abandoned, but also, in addition to that, it has the sense of lacking, not quite all there, lesser, inferior. And that is why the use of the expression Hinayana as opposed to Mahayana is sometimes not well received by the Theravadins, who are accused then of having the inferior or the lesser vehicle as opposed to the Mahayana, the greater vehicle. Anyway, back to where we were. Idam akusalam chahidam, make it simpler. Idam akusalam, this unwholesomeness. Pahinam, abandoned. In other words, if this unwholesomeness is abandoned, or this unwholesomeness when abandoned, samvateya is an optative form expressing an indefinite or a conditional here. So he's saying, if it were the case that by abandoning the unwholesome you would harm yourselves, then I wouldn't advise you to do it. He puts it in this way. Idam akusalam pahinam, this unwholesomeness abandoned, or if abandoned, samvateya, were it to lead to ahitayo dukhaya, to harm and suffering. Naham evam vadayam, na aham evam vadayam, I would not say thus, pajahata. Note here, as in several cases, indeed in every case opening in a short vowel, several cases in this reading, pajahata, abandon, but pajahatati, that is just because whenever any word ending in a short vowel is followed by a T, that's the end of quote T, that vowel is always lengthened. It has no grammatical effect. It's just a phonetic lengthening before the T. So normally it would be pajahata, but then followed by T is pajahatati. So he's saying, were it the case, were it counterfactually the case that the abandoning of the unwholesome would lead to harm, then I wouldn't say abandon it. So akusalam chahidam, this unwholesomeness, bhikkhave monks, pahinam, abandon, meaning if abandoned, when abandoned. Samvateya, were it to lead ahitaya dukkaya, to harm and suffering, na aham evam vadayam, na aham evam vadayam, I would not say thus. Akusalam bhikkhave pajahata, the unwholesome, O monks, abandon. Now he comes to the counter sentence. Yasma chako bhikkhave. Yasma, because yasma chako, but because bhikkhave. Akusalam pahinam, the unwholesome abandoned, or the unwholesome when abandoned. Hitaya sukhaya samvatati. Samvatati is conducive to, leads to, hitaya sukhaya, to welfare and happiness. Tasma aham evam vadami. Tasma aham becomes tasmaham. Tasmaham evam vadami. Therefore, I say thus. Akusalam bhikkhave pajahata. Written here as pajahatati. That's because it's been written as a quote of what is being said. What he actually said was akusalam bhikkhave pajahata, but you're quoting his words in writing, so it becomes akusalam bhikkhave pajahatati. Now we come to the second paragraph. Kusalam bhikkhave bhaveta, that is, develop or cultivate the wholesome. Now we have the root bhu and the present tense, same in Pali and Sanskrit, bhavati. Bhaveta with a long R, this is the causative. The causative literally, this is to be, the causative is to cause to be, to bring into being. Let me write what it is in Sanskrit and in Pali. And this verb, you lengthen the R to make the causative. So it's in Sanskrit, bhavayati. Numerous causatives. In fact, it's the most frequent way of making a causative verb is instead of the ati ending, you put the aya in. So ayati, as in gamayati. Gachati, he goes. Gamayati, he makes go. He causes to go. So bhavayati. This ayati ending becomes an a. The aya becomes an a in Pali. That's why bhaveti. And the imperative in Sanskrit would be bhavayata. In Pali, bhaveta. So aya softened to a. Incidentally, you already know this from some of your chanting. We have the word puja, same in Sanskrit and Pali, puja, and in Sanskrit you make a verb out of this noun, not exactly a causative, it's called a denominative verb, but it looks like a causative. So pujayami, I worship, I offer puja to, pujayami. And as usual, the aya becomes an a in Pali. So pujami. And many of you will have done that chant. It goes buddham pujami. That's it. In Sanskrit, buddham pujayami. In Pali, buddham pujami. Now back to bhaveta. Bhaveta, cultivate. I said that it means to bring into being, to cause to be. And then in a spiritual sense, many cases, even an athletic sense, you're an athlete, bhaveti, Sanskrit bhavayati, Pali bhaveti, his skills and his strength, any kind of skill and strength. So it means develop or cultivate. And the verbal noun from the causative verb is bhavana, which means bringing, literally bringing into being, causing to be, and then cultivation. And it's often used to mean one's practice. You devote yourself to your practice, to the bhavana, which is this effort to develop and cultivate wholesome qualities. So the rest of this sentence pretty much reflects the previous one and the structure of the previous one and what the Buddha is saying. So, Sakka bhikkhave kusalam bhavetum. It is possible, O monks, to develop the wholesome. Now, I mentioned just a few moments ago that the Sanskrit bhavayati becomes bhaveti in Pali. And in the infinitive, the same happens. So in Sanskrit, the infinitive, sakha bhavayitum, it is possible to develop bhavayitum. In Pali now, just as bhavayati becomes bhaveti, so the infinitive, Sanskrit bhavayitum, becomes in Pali bhavetum. Sakabhikave kusalam bhavetum. It is possible, O monks, to develop wholesome qualities. This is his encouragement. I'm not telling you to do something that's impossible. Sakabhavetum. It's possible to cultivate or to develop. Yasmachakho bhikkhave. And because, or just because, bhikkhave, O monks, sakka kusalam bhavetum, it is possible to cultivate the wholesome. Tasmaham, that's tasma'aham, therefore I. Tasmaham evam vadami, therefore I say thus. Kuslam bhikkhave bhaveta. Now, if this were the imperative on its own, without a T following, just be kusalam bhaveta, but followed by the T, that final short up becomes long. Bhavetati. What he actually said was kusalam bhikkhave bhaveta. And again, the next sentence reflects the corresponding one in the previous paragraph. Kusalancha hidam bhikkhave bhavitam samvataya ahitaya dukhaya nahamevam vadayam kusalam bhikkhave bhavetati. So kusalam chahidam kusalam idam bhavitam, this wholesomeness, bhavitam, developed, meaning this wholesomeness, if developed, samvataya, again the optative, were it to lead, this is counterfactually, were it to lead to ahitaya, dukhaya, these two datives, to harm, to suffering, naham, that's na aham, evam vadayam, I would not say thus, kuslam bhikkhave bhaveta, or it's written here bhavetati. Yasmachako bhikkhave, but because, O monks, kusalam bhavitam, the wholesome, when developed, when cultivated, samvattati, is conducive, hitaya, sukhaya, to welfare and happiness. Tasmaham evam vadami, therefore I say thus. Kusalam bhikkhave bhaveta, was written here, kusalam bhikkhave bhavetati. So I will once more just read this passage slowly and try to follow it as I go along. Yasmacha kubhikave sakka akusalam pajahitum tasmaham evam vadami. Akusalam bhikkhave pajahata. I'll leave out the long vowels and the T, so I'll just repeat the words as he would have said them without the T in each case. Akusalam bhikkhave pajahata. Akusalam chahitam bhikkhave pahinam ahitaya dukhaya samvataya naham evam vadayam. Akusalam bhikkhave pajahata. Yasmachakho bhikkhave akusalam pahinam hitaya sukhaya samvatati tasmaham evam vadami akusalam bhikkhave pajahatati. Kusalam bhikkhave bhaveta sakka bhikkhave kusalam bhavetum. Yasmachakho bhikkhave sakka kusalam bhavetum tasmaham evam vadami kusalam bhikkhave bhavethati. Kusalam chahidam bhikkhave bhavitam ahitaya dukhaya samvataya naham evam vadayam kusalam bhikkhave bhavethati. Yasmachakho bhikkhave kusalam bhavitam hitaya sukhaya samvatati tasmaham evam vadami kusalam bhikkhave bhavethati. Now, I just goofed up slightly there. Did any of you notice? I said that the final vowel is lengthened before a T, which, yes, it is, that's correct. Bhaveta, bhavethati. And I said that it was lengthened here because the T was put in, because whoever wrote this was quoting the words of the Buddha. For T. But no, the Buddha actually here is quoting his own words. I would not say this to you, cultivate T. So it's the Buddha who's saying that about his own words. I would not say to you, quote, cultivate the skillful, unquote. So sorry, the T should be there. This in fact is the Buddha putting it in because he's quoting himself. Right, that is the end of this video. And that is the end of section 1, the first set of readings of chapter 3.